nobody saw her coming. That's the thing about Alex. The world had every chance to notice her, and it kept looking the other way right up until the moment she made looking away impossible. A 20-year-old from the Philippines, a wild card in every sense of the word, walked into one of the biggest tennis tournaments on the planet, ranked 140th in the world. And by the time she walked out, nothing in women's tennis would ever quite be the same again. Brands started circling. Numbers got whispered in rooms she wasn't even in. Social media caught fire, and then came the headlines. Staggering, jaw-dropping, almost incomprehensible headlines about deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And the whole world wanted to know, was it true? Was this young woman really about to become the most valuable tennis player on earth? The answer, music when it finally came, wasn't what anyone expected. And honestly, it was better. But before we get there, you have to understand where she came from, because the beginning of this story is just as remarkable as everything that followed, maybe more so. And it starts not in a stadium or a press conference, but in Quezon City, Philippines in 2005, with a little girl who picked up a racket and simply never let go. Music. Alex grew up in a household that understood what it meant to work for something. Her mother, Rissa, was a national-level swimmer who brought home a bronze medal at the 1985 SEA Games, and later climbed the corporate ladder all the way to chief financial officer at Globe Telecom, one of the biggest companies in the country. Her father, Mike, was a businessman. Yes, music. This wasn't a story about poverty or desperation or clawing your way out of nothing. It was a different kind of story. Quieter in some ways, but no less fierce. About a girl with fire in her chest growing up, surrounded by people who had already proven that excellence was possible, and who decided she was going to chase it harder than anyone around her. She found tennis, and tennis found her back. By the time she was 8 years old, 8 not 18, Globe Telecom had already signed her as a brand ambassador, a company that her own mother helped run. A company that looked at this child and said, yes, this girl, is going to be something the whole country talks about. And they weren't wrong. What happened next took courage, music that most adults don't have. She left home. She crossed the world and enrolled at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain. Music, one of the most elite junior development programs that exist in tennis anywhere on this planet. She trained under a philosophy shaped by one of the greatest champions, music, the sport has ever produced. And she did it while finishing her schoolwork, while living thousands of miles from her family in a country where she didn't grow up at an age when most kids are still figuring out what they want for lunch. She turned professional in 2020 at just 14. Music. The wins came slowly at first, the way they always do when you're young and learning how brutal the real game is. And then they started stacking up. Music. In 2022, she made history, becoming the first Filipino ever to win a Grand Slam junior singles title, ES Music taking the girls' singles crown at the US Open. The Philippines absolutely erupted. Music. But here's what Alex understood, what she had probably understood for a long time. Junior glory and senior dominance are two completely different mountains, and the WTA Tour doesn't care what trophies you have from yesterday. Every single week on that tour is a fresh fight against the best women alive. Music, and the scoreboard starts at 0 every time. She was going to have to prove it all over again. Every match, every tournament, music, every season, until the world had no choice but to accept what she already knew about herself. The moment that changed everything came in March 2025 in Miami. Music, and it was so stunning that people who cover tennis for a living genuinely struggled to find the right words for what they were watching. She walked into the Miami Open as a wild card, which in tennis terms essentially means you're a guest, an afterthought, someone the brackets accommodate but don't really account for. Music ranked 140th in the world. She was not the story anyone planned to tell that week. Music. The crowds were there for the big names, the established stars, the household faces. Music except, and this is what made Miami so electric, the Filipino fans were already there for her. They had traveled to Florida. They were filling the stands in red and blue before she had hit a single competitive ball. They chanted music, her name. They believed in something the rest of the tennis world had not yet caught up to. Music. In the second round, she faced a player ranked 130 spots above her and took her apart in 2 tiebreak sets. One upset? Music, the internet stirred. Then she beat Madison Keys, a top 10 player sending one of the tournament's bigger names home early. 2 music upsets. Now the tennis world wasn't stirring. It was paying attention tart. And then she did something that nobody who witnessed it will ever quite forget. She stepped onto the court against Iga Swiatek, the world number 2, a 5-time Grand Slam champion, one music of the most dominant players of her entire generation. A woman who walked into every tournament that year as the favorite by a wide margin. Alex beat her straight sets. The crowd lost its mind. Back in the Philippines, what music people stayed up through the night watching. A wildcard ranked 140th in the world had just defeated one of the greatest players alive on one of the biggest stages in the sport, Hoba Music. And when the noise finally settled, nothing about the way people talked about Alex Eala was ever going to be the same. Music. The rest of that year read like something out of a sports movie someone wrote specifically to be inspiring. She broke into the top 100. She reached the final in Eastbourne. She won her first WTA music title in Guadalajara in September, becoming the first Filipino woman to win a WTA Challenger Global event. She ended the year ranked 50th in the world. By March of 2026, she had climbed to a career high of 29th, making her the highest-ranked Filipino player in the entire history of the WTA Tour. And with that rise, fast, undeniable, impossible to ignore, came the money talk. Or more precisely, what the internet decided to say about the money talk. Here is where the story gets complicated. Here is where it gets very, very human. Because when Alex conquered Miami, music, the brands noticed immediately. Sky Sports lead presenter Gigi Salmon put it plainly. Music saying that in terms of her appeal and the crowds that follow her, Alex might already be the biggest star the sport has right now. Agents, music were talking, companies were watching, and then social media did what social media does. It ran straight past the truth and kept going. First came the Wilson claim. A Facebook post went viral insisting that Alex had accepted a $45 million endorsement deal with Wilson Sporting Goods, complete with an emotional quote, supposedly from her about giving the money to those who needed it more, about helping the Philippines grow stronger. It felt perfect. It felt like exactly the kind of thing a beloved national hero would say. Music. It got over 100,000 likes. People shared it with tears in their eyes. It was completely fabricated. No official statement from Wilson, no confirmation from her team, no news report anywhere backing it up. Music, nothing. Then came the Emirates Airlines story claiming a $2 million annual deal including first-class travel to every tournament on the circuit. Also fake. And then, and this is where the numbers became genuinely surreal, the Abu Dhabi story. Posts began circulating claiming that Alex had received a multi-billion-dollar offer, a 10-year contract with a $1 billion down payment, and $600 million annually to serve as the face of a new tennis championship in Abu Dhabi. When you add up all the fabricated deals that got attached to her name across those months, the Wilson contract, the Emirates sponsorship, the Abu Dhabi billions, the Jordan brand, Whispers, you are looking at figures that sail past $200 million. All invented, all viral, all connected to a 20-year-old woman who had absolutely nothing to do with any of it: music. The reason it kept happening isn't hard to understand if you sit with it honestly. Music. There's a pride in the Filipino community around Alex that is enormous and genuine and deeply felt. And when you love someone the way an entire nation loves her, you want the world to honor that love with numbers that feel worthy of it. The fake deals are born of real devotion, but devotion without truth has a way of becoming something that actually hurts the person you're trying to celebrate. And nobody seemed to be asking what it meant that the internet kept manufacturing billion-dollar fantasies around a young woman of color who was doing the real work every single day without any of that noise. While all of that was happening online, Music, the real Alex, was out on actual courts building actual relationships with people who had believed in her before she was famous. Globe Telecom, Music, the same company that signed her when she was 8 years old, never stopped being part of her story. Babolat supplies her rackets. Nike dresses her on court. And Nike didn't just hand her a uniform and call it representation. When she made her Wimbledon debut in July 2025, Nike gifted her a hair tie designed in the shape of the saguita blossom, the national flower of the Philippines. A few weeks later, Aite released a limited edition shirt inspired by her, designed by Filipino artist Georgina Camas. Music, the national flower laid over the grass courts of the All England Club. These weren't just marketing moves, they were cultural moments. They were acknowledgments of exactly what she carries every time she walks into a court. The Bank of the Philippine Islands made her an endorser. A Filipino juice brand brought her on in July 2025. Music in February 2026, she became a Milo ambassador. Music, real deals, real companies, real meaning behind every one of them. And underneath all of it, the actual financial reality of professional tennis. A reality the fake headline machine never bothered to mention is that being a top 50 player in the world is extraordinarily expensive. Like travel costs alone can run anywhere between $50,000 and $150,000 a year. Coaching adds another $50,000. The full annual cost of competing at the highest level can climb toward $2 million. Music. And that's before anyone makes a profit. The imaginary billions the internet printed for Alex Eala had nothing to do with the grinding, expensive, beautiful reality of what she is actually building. Music. So when her real answer finally came not to a fake headline, not to a fabricated contract, but to the genuine question of what this journey means to her, it landed in a way that no manufactured quote ever could. After her run at the 2026 Indian Wells Open, where she reached the 4th round and climbed to that career-high ranking of 29th in the world, she was asked about the support that follows her everywhere she competes. And she said that having that community behind her in such a prestigious tournament means the world to her, that the effort music they make, staying up late, standing in the cold, really added to everything she felt after the match. No dollar signs, music, no press conference announcements. Just a young woman who knows exactly what it means to be loved by people who traveled across the world to cheer for her. And when she was asked whether she was proud of how far she had come, her answer was the realest thing anyone said in this entire story. Music. She said she thinks her 5-year-old self would be proud, but not too surprised, because at that age, your imagination can go wild. And as long as she can remember, this has been her dream. That music is the response that hit hardest. Not a billion-dollar acceptance speech. It is music. Not a fabricated quote about charity. Just a woman looking back at a little girl who dared to dream something enormous and saying quietly, music, firmly, without any performance at all, I got here. The fake deals keep circulating because people desperately want to believe in something extraordinary. And the irony that sits at the heart of all of it is that the real Alexa, the girl who left home at 12, who trained in Spain while finishing her schoolwork, who walked into Miami as a wild card and walked out having beaten the world number 2, who is doing all of this while navigating the pressure of being the face of an entire nation's sporting hopes, is already more extraordinary than anything a social media page could invent. The real deals will come. They will come quietly and legitimately and on her terms, backed by truth instead of fiction. And when they do, they will mean something. But the final question, the one this whole story has really been circling, isn't about the money at all. It's about what it means when the internet music builds fake empires around young athletes, especially young women of color, the moment they dare to rise. Is it harmless excitement, or does it say something uncomfortable about the way the world processes brilliance it wasn't expecting? Music. Alex Eala went from wildcard to the top 30 in the world. From fabricated billion-dollar headlines to real partnerships built on years of actual trust. Music. Her story is not a rumor. It is not a viral post. It is not a quote someone invented in a Facebook music comment section. It is the truth, and the truth, as she is proving every single time she walks onto a court, hits harder than any headline ever.